Well, welcome and happy Monday to all of you out there. Um, I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of what happens after a machine goes through the paint shop. And that might be that it's getting a full repaint, new decals, new clear coat, like this Centennial Featherweight that is headed for California. Or it might be as simple as reconditioning the paint, leaving the original paint, decals, and just bolstering up that clear coat a little bit. But in either case, once it finishes its journey at the paint shop, which again is about 60 miles away from the workshop here in Oconto, Wisconsin, there's a number of things that have to happen, a number of steps that it has to go through before it ultimately can get premiered and then get sent out the door to that anxiously awaiting customer. And this customer in particular is very anxious because they are going to be giving this a special Christmas present to their spouse. Kind of change that shot a little bit. So the timing of this could not be any more critical in getting through these next steps without cutting corners, but as expeditiously as possible. Because even once I get done with my steps on this featherweight, it goes into the hands of USPS. And this is only a few weeks out from Christmas. So guess what? A lot is out of my control. And I know that Brian out in California is keeping his fingers and toes crossed that I can get through all of the steps that I need to get through very quickly, get it into the mail, and then we'll just continue to tap our left foot until I receive notification from Brian out in California that it's arrived safely. Because, oh my goodness, this is the busiest time of the year for the Postal Service, probably even busier than tax time when everyone's sending out their filings and either paying their bills or hoping that they get some sort of a refund. So, but some of the things that I do when a machine has made it through the paint shop is, number one, I just verify that everything's good to go as far as the paint work on the machine. And you can see straight away that this Centennial Featherweight heading for California is standing tall and looking good. All the paint work turned out beautifully. These are all brand new decals as well, very much like Ross's Model 27 that is going to be heading out the door as well this week, heading down towards Texas, so he can present it to his customer along with his master woodworking work that he did on that Model 27 cabinet down there. And I'm hoping I can eventually get some pictures of his work and then marrying that machine with that cabinet. At any rate, I digress. Focusing again on this Centennial Featherweight, I verify all the paint work is good to go, but there's still work beyond the paint work. I'll kind of turn it around as well so you can see the back of this machine that I just finished at the paint shop. And I'm going to move this big old magnify glass just because it's metal and I don't want it even possibly coming in contact with this featherweight. But if you didn't see those pictures on Facebook, you're going to want to check them out. You're going to want to check out those photos on Facebook so you can appreciate all the steps that a machine that's getting a full restore has to go through. But once it gets back to the workshop, inevitably there's more work that has to be done. All down in this area here, I have to very carefully use my dental tools in order to remove any clear coat that may have made its way into that track, because when I go to put that throat plate cover back on, it has to fit back down perfectly and not be pushed up at all from a real thin layer of clear coat that might have seeped in there during the painting process. I've also got to verify all the mechanics. I've got to go through the motors as well. And you can see here, I've got two motors lined up. One is a St. John's made featherweight motor that was made in Canada. The other one was made in Elizabethport, New Jersey. They're both exactly the same as far as amperage. I'll kind of show you their nomenclature plate. So this one here, we're looking at the St. John's motor. And if you look at it very carefully, it's got just subtle differences from the Elizabethport, New Jersey one. The amperage, again, is going to be the same. We're going to be rated at 0.4 amps, 100 to 110 as far as the volts, whereas the Elizabethport, New Jersey one, while it's the same as far as the higher as far as motors, it's going to be a little bit different. On the Elizabethport, New Jersey one, we've got screws that are visible or bolts that are visible that hold those casings together. On the one that's made in Canada at St. John's, we've got recessed bolts that go into the casing and kind of disappear. Also, you can see we've got a slightly different pulley system as well. On the St. John's one, we've got a rubber cap that goes on the end, and then the belt has to kind of go in between. On the Elizabethport, New Jersey featherweight motor, all we have is the output shaft for the motor, and then we'll be putting the pulley back on it, if this is the motor I end up going with. Apart from those subtle differences, when you look at the motors, they're going to be virtually identical in appearance. Yeah, pretty much the same. So I've got to make a final determination once I do motor strength tests, which motor is going to end up going on this Centennial Featherweight that's heading to California. So as I go through the different parts, I'm going to kind of back the camera up a bit. As I go through the different parts, each one has to be cleaned and prepped. So here we've got the clutch ring that goes onto the balance wheel along with the stop action. Cutest little stop actions on these featherweights. They're about as big as a silver dollar, slightly bigger maybe, compared to a standard stop action type clutch that you'll find on the standard Singer machines. Also, I've got my very special paint mixture, which again, if you've ever wondered as you're looking at a featherweight like this, and you say, I wonder what goes into that paint. Well, using a spectrometer, I was able to come up with the actual recipe that Singer uses, which I'm going to keep close to my vest pocket, if you know what I mean. But I can tell you that as you're looking at this, part of the reason that a Singer can be a standard black and yet look spectacular, not just the shininess of it, but the richness of that black patina and that black paint, is because there's just a smidge of blue that is mixed into that black paint as it was originally done at the factory back in 1951 with a Centennial model like this. Truth be told, a number of the Centennial models came out a little bit earlier than 1951. They came out sometimes as early as 1949, but a lot of them came out around 1950, and then they were released in 1951 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Singer sewing machine company coming out in 1851 originally. But that paint process, like the Coke recipe, is one that's kept very, very much hush hush. Kind of like the, I guess, kind of like the Colonel's recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken. But the paint color, coupled with all of the clear coat work that was done and all of these brand new decals that I very carefully laid down on Brian's machine just is the entire package, isn't it? It's just utterly spectacular. But I can tell you this, that I've got on onto this Centennial Featherweight one, but I wanted to show you the two motors just to compare and contrast them as well. So if you've never seen a Canadian-made featherweight motor, you'd have a chance to see one up and close and personal as well. And again, for the most part, the same, but subtle little differences, kind of like this, and also the data plate, and this as well. Kind of set it apart a little bit. Also, you can see the Elizabethport, New Jersey motor has an ebony type lubrication point for this end of the opposite end of the output shaft, and it's also got a slightly different badge mark. If you look at it very closely, that's the badge mark right there for Elizabethport, New Jersey. This is the badge mark here for St. John's in Canada. So very, very close, but uniquely different at the same time. So let's do a little bit of a motor power up, and then I'm going to end this live stream and get super busy in getting this Centennial Featherweight reassembled, getting everything verified, and then getting it heading towards California as quickly as I can. I'm hoping to do a real quick premiere, but if I do, it's going to be super duper quick. It's going to be super quick because I've got to get this machine out the door. Oh, hey, Dr. T, I was just showing the folks this Centennial Featherweight that I just finished, that just got out of my paint shop. Gorgeous, gorgeous machine, but I've got to get it finished now and get it heading towards California so that it can arrive before Christmas. This is going to be a Christmas present for Brian's wife. And I was just explaining there's a lot of work that has to be done once the machine gets onto the paint shop. It's all pretty, it's all shiny, it's all gorgeous. Brand new decals on this Centennial Featherweight 221, but a lot of work has to be done once it gets back to the workshop. A lot of work. So I've got to get busy on that. But I didn't show you the badge mark as well, and I'm sure you can Google it just as well and see a pretty Centennial badge mark. But as one of my friends discovered, if you're going to be cleaning up a badge mark like this, you've got to be incredibly careful. It's not like one of the brass or copper badge marks that you commonly see on Singer machines. This is a two-stage resin-based badge mark that was part of the Centennial phase in 1951. You have to be real careful as far as cleaning this so that you don't cause damage to it. My friend, I believe it was, I can't remember now, but he had used something a little bit too caustic on this and it actually melted it. So he ended up with a standard looking badge mark. It still has the inlay notation of the Centennial year, but the color contrast that came through this resin creation, this two-stage creation for the Centennial year, was lost. It melted. And he ended up just being despondent. So now he's got some decisions to make as far as what he does. And you can't just go to, eBay or somewhere like that and commonly find a Centennial badge like this. They're really hard to come by. But I'm really pleased with the restoration of this, along with the brand new decals that I laid down on this machine. All the paintwork and everything and the clear coat came out beautifully as well. And originally the plan was not to do a repaint with brand new decals on this model for Brian out in California. I was going to do cleanup on the paint patina and then do a clear coat restoration. Unfortunately, I found that was not going to be sufficient because some of the painted areas were all the way down to bare metal. So it would have shown through like a sore thumb on the machine itself. So it required more work than originally planned, which kind of pushed it out even closer dramatically as we are just weeks away now from Christmas. So I'm really going to have to scramble on this one. All right, quick motor power up on these two different motors. Again, a Canadian motor, a motor from Elizabethport, New Jersey. And we'll see what we think. Let's do the Canadian one first. And again, when you do a bypass like this and you're not using a foot controller, you are going to be pushing that motor all the way to the max. It's going to be like pedal to the metal, because without a foot controller, it's just going to open up that floodgate of electricity completely, and you're going to see the max point of the machine motor. So let me just make sure these aren't touching, and I'll go ahead and fire this up for you. It's a little happier when it's not laying on its side. All right, I'm going to go ahead and shut that one down. You notice it vibrates too a little bit when it's on its side as well, because this metal band goes around the casing of the motor, and it's got just a little bit of play on it when it's laying on its side, so it's creating a vibration. And with the sound thing that's part of the YouTube channel, it probably cut that out shortly after it fired up. But it's sounding like it's a nice, strong, sturdy motor. Obviously, I've gone through it, so I'm going to set this one to the side. And now we'll give the Elizabethport, New Jersey motor an opportunity to kind of show its stuff. And you notice I always put on just a little piece of electrical tape between the two connections, because the last thing I want to have happen is for these to touch, which would create major sparks and could also cause a surge to the motor as well and cause damage to it. So always take the time, if you're going to do a bypass test like this using alligator clips like I am, just put a little piece of electrical tape around it, and that way you ensure that you're not going to have it. Nice spin up, nice even spin up. Good power output from that output shaft. So again, I think I'm going to go ahead and do my final lube on this, and then I'm going to go ahead and install this motor on this Centennial Featherweight. All right, well, I'm going to get busy. I just wanted to show you a little bit of some of the stuff that I have to do once I get done with my work at the paint shop. A lot of people think the paint shop is the end of the process. It's only the about middle of the way when it comes to the work that has to be finished afterwards. All of these parts that I have right over here have to be gone through with the dental tools, a polishing emery type cloth, and getting all of these ready to go back on this machine. Upper tension is disassembled, has to be completely cleaned, polished, reassembled, and lubricated as needed on that. Electric has to be connected again for the motor and for the light assembly, and all that has to be verified as well. Final polishing on the covers for the throat plate. And again, before doing that, all of this throat plate area has to be cleaned very carefully so that if any of that clear coat got inside of there, it's not going to be pushing that plate up further. Again, the reason you don't want that plate to be pushed up further is it results in those feed dogs being diminished and the effectiveness of the feed dogs. Here's our output pulley. Again, special cleaning. And you have to be real careful when you're reinstalling a pulley like this on that output shaft, that it's mounted true and clear so that there's no offset or drag being added to that belt, which is going to create stress to the motor. It's also going to prematurely wear that belt that goes on the machine as well. Here you can see we've got our screw point for the faceplate, our presser foot itself, and I'll be including extra attachments with this Centennial Featherweight for Brian as promised, so that his wife has a nice assortment of attachments that would have potentially come with this 1951 Featherweight back in the day. Here's our cover right here for the top of the machine. And I've got to do additional polishing and clean up on the spool pin as well. Part of our bobbin winding assembly for the front, it's going to be our thread tensioner. Has to be thoroughly cleaned and mounted properly. Our bobbin case, and this is an original bobbin case, not an aftermarket bobbin case. A lot of maintenance that has to be done on this so that when all is said and done, it delivers a gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous top stitch. And then on the bottom of this, for the most part, we're pretty good, but I'm going to be installing brand new feet so that Brian's wife can enjoy vibration-free sewing with this machine. That's the problem, is these start to get stiffer, they dry out, they become brittle. Even if they're intact, they tend to not provide that soft cushion any longer. So I'll be installing brand new ones, as I do for all of my featherweights, on this Centennial one. And then finally, this machine will have an LED light, which I'm a big proponent of, as you know. It's going to almost quadruple the brightness of the sewing space so that Brian's wife will be able to see down at the needle, across the bed, and everywhere else. But it also reduces the heat substantially. So I'm a big proponent of these LED lights. All right, so you can see I've got a lot to do, Plus I've got to go through this foot controller as well. And that includes cleaning all of these electrical contacts that plug into this junction point here, so that we maximize all the electricity flowing through this Featherweight Centennial model from 1951. Okay, so thanks for joining in. I'm going to go ahead and get back to work, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And I'm going to be a very busy person in the workshop, getting machines shipped to Brooklyn, New York, getting them shipped all the way down, and then clear this workbench. And along with Brian's Featherweight 221 Centennial model going out to California, got to get all those other machines shipped as well. I guess everyone talks about how busy it is leading up to Christmas, particularly true in the workshop. So this ends that session. Hope you enjoyed getting a little glimpse of some of these things, and I'm going to get busy. God bless you guys. Take care. Sandra, I'm actually ending the live stream now, but you can certainly rewind this live stream and check everything out, Cassandra. And also a quick hello to Dr. T as well, from getting a brain